The first developer deep dive for Atlantic City is out now, and it revealed a lot about the upcoming expedition, and for the most part it all sounded really promising. In today's video we're running through the main talking points, including confirmation that the expedition format is indeed changing this time around, as there'll be separate quest content as well, and there's also going to be exploration that won't be tied to the daily op style missions. Let's dive straight in, and I think the perfect starting point is what is the Atlantic City update actually going to be? The primary change this time around is it's actually being released in two parts. The first part, which will be releasing in December and is coming to the player test server tomorrow, includes two different expeditions which are described as being similar missions to what we got with the Pit. So essentially an Atlantic City version of From Ashes to Fire and Union Dues. The second content release, which is coming next year, is a little bit different though, as it includes one more traditional expedition mission, but alongside that there will also be a series of quests you can complete at the new location. Here's the full breakdown of what was said.
Atlantic City is coming in two content releases. The first release includes two expeditions very similar to the Pit, and the second release includes one more expedition as well as a variety of quests that you can do in Atlantic City, and you will be able to explore Atlantic City freely outside of expedition, like sort of the traditional expedition content that we know of from the Pit.
We don't really have long to find out with some of this content slated to go live on the test server tomorrow, but one thing I'd definitely like to clear up is this free exploration. Is it coming with the second part next year, or is it something we can do as well during the first update? Definitely look out for my first impressions video tomorrow for some answers. Who can we expect to meet in this new expedition though? The city itself is controlled by three factions: the family, the central government, and the showmen, and each expedition added will focus on helping one of these factions to achieve one of their main goals. The boardwalk is controlled by the showmen, and the aquarium seen in the footage will relate to their questline. One of the expedition missions is actually located here, as we participate in the most sensational game. The casino quarter is controlled by the family, and is led by a character called Quintino Lombardi, who no doubt had this location named after him. Finally, we have the municipal government, who are described like this.
Atlantic City is held together by three main factions. We have the municipal government, who are keeping the power and lights and food working in Atlantic City.
I think this also explains the Mooney armor set, which was data mined, which is stated to be a unique set that we can acquire from Atlantic City. We don't have any visuals just yet of what that looks like. Moving on from the factions and what they describe as traditional expedition missions, we have something entirely new. And what is described as the quest or story content will instead focus on the deeper consequences of what these factions are doing and the indulgences that the city's inhabitants have been partaking in. Central to this is the Devil's Blood designer drug, which has been mentioned by Joey Bello previously, and it turns out that this is actually represented by this asset, which was recently data mined. It seems pretty clear cut that this drug will relate to the new cryptid, the Jersey Devil, in some way. But there's more.
So how does the Devil's Blood affect somebody who gets addicted to it? What happens if you cross the family or the showman? We have a main story, which is a very personal story about a family who has come to Appalachia on the run from Atlantic City. So the player will help deal with some of the consequences they're facing and make choices affecting the family members' perspectives and where they end up at the end of the story.
It's quite interesting that they mentioned consequences of going against some of these big new factions. Something Fallout 76 hasn't always done too well in my opinion is seeing some meaningful consequences for decisions that we make. Siding with the raiders or settlers in Wastelanders basically leaves things at a constant stalemate whatever you decide to go with. So I'm interested to see how much trouble we could potentially get in with the family, for example. There's also mention of a family escaping Atlantic City to Appalachia, which also does sound quite interesting too, and I'm definitely eager to learn more about that. Another big narrative shift in Atlantic City is the opposition. In the Pit, the Union and the Fanatics are embroiled in a constant battle for survival, with the threat of the Trogs a constant problem as well. In Atlantic City, the main threats actually come from the outside. From the sea itself and from the neighbouring Pine Barrens, I expect that these will be the overgrown enemies and Jersey Devils respectively, which should at the very least make the storyline pretty far removed from the war-torn Pit. Anyway, that pretty much wraps things up for now. If you want to check out the full deep dive, then I've left a video link in the description, but overall I'm currently pretty happy with what they've said thus far. I'm interested to get people's thoughts though, of course, in the comments. I'm definitely wanting to see more of the locations myself, I will say that, as I was a little bit underwhelmed from the little that we've seen so far, but to be honest, that's probably to be expected, as we haven't even started exploring ourselves in the playtest server after all. So definitely check back tomorrow for some hands-on Atlantic City content as I dive into the PTS and take a first look. But also look out for my Atlantic City Data Mine Rewards video, which is supposed to be releasing later this week if you want a first look at some of the things you'll probably be grinding for. If you enjoyed this particular video, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. We post a variety of Fallout 76 content, so turning on the bell icon is definitely the best way to stay up to date. With that said, I am off. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.